we go. All right. So we have a comment about Eric Alcantara. Um, Somebody named Big Island 8971. So he said that Latino, Hispanic, non-race, that Eric Alcantara could be classified as white. Okay, so let me explain to you. And you're talking to a man who does have distant Black Spanish Creole roots. I get that Hispanic can be a ethnicity, not a race, but it is treated like a race. And let me explain why. Okay, and you should know this because the Anglo Saxons in America tried to purify the white race in the United States, but the Spaniards, especially since they have ancestors from Spain, from Africa, North Africa, and some mixed with sub-Saharan Africa, because you had Africans and Arabs mixing in the Islamic areas in North Africa. And then later on came to Spain. Remember, the Moors controlled Spain for years. Okay, and then you have the so-called gypsies. I want to say the Romani people come from India. Okay, and that's why you have darker Spaniards because that mixture. Well, since they have history of race mixing, and I gotta educate people why the Moors were kicked out of Spain was not because they were African descent. I get tired of hearing that. It's because a lot of the Muslims at the time, and this is not a anti-Muslim kind of channel, okay? If you're a Christian at the time, most Christians were Catholic, okay? At the time before the Orthodox and the Protestants came in, they were persecuted for not being Islamic. Many people converted to Catholic Christianity and left the Islamic religion, and they were getting persecuted with their own families. They also get enslaved. And one thing a lot of folks understand, the first slave trade was the Arab slave trade in the area. A lot of people do not know that. Okay, it's not just the white European and the Africans. No, the Arab slave trade. So they was enslaving Christian people, Catholic Christian people in Spain. So, and many people who are ex-Muslims who were Moorish became Catholic Christian, which is why you see dark hair, olive skin Spaniards, because you sometimes suspected the Spaniard to be blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair, fair complexion, very Western European, Nordic, Celtic features. However, due to the centuries of mixing, that's why the word mulatto is not a derogatory term. You always say it's a mule, a half donkey, half horse. But Murad was a mixture of Arab and and European, right? Black Arab and European, something like that. Way before um, Spain dominated in the Americas. So you don't understand why. So, for example, the English and the English Protestants in the later on after the Reformation, English Protestants and the Spaniard Catholics have always been at each other. And when the Puritans, who are Protestant, came over here, you know how they treated the American people. They treated other Europeans who were not proud of their faith when they were running from the Church of England. Because when the Protestants started making their own interpretation of the Bible, they started having divided body. That's why I'm not Protestant anymore since 1993. Okay, I became Catholic Christian. The perfect. Okay, because people like Saint Peter said in the Scriptures make their own interpretation of the Bible. There's a prophecy of personal interpretation of Scriptures. Second Peter chapter 1 verses 20-21. And then he warns, St. Peter warns people that the Bible is hard to understand. Paul's teachers are hard to understand, that the ignorant state will distort them as they do us, therefore be on your guard. That's in 2 Peter chapter 3, 15, 17. And a lot of, those are scriptures I quoted to my toxic grandmother on my dad's side, and she tried to keep me out. And if we on 23rd of December, then next thing, 50 years later, she dies in the same day. I found it weird. 2007, 2022. Okay. Yeah, she was abusive on my dad's side. So the point I'm trying to say is that divided body caused that, but many of those Europeans from Western Europe, especially the English, the British, believe in purity. Now, of course, you had interracial mixing, but when it came here, they was trying to purify the white race. Okay, well, in Spanish America, just like the French and the Portuguese as well, they interracial marriage and mixing was tolerable. Okay, and as a person that has a French and Spanish Creole, Louisiana was not like the rest of the South before Louisiana Purchase. Even though slavery was practiced, you had people who were free, who were part black, who were, they had white fathers who is Spaniard or either French, and they married black women or had girlfriends who were black, either mixed race black women, mulatto or Parisian, or all three triracial. So it's not just, you know what I'm saying, and that's why the French Creoles of color, that I'm not ashamed to have in my background, were more educated and wealthy than the white Anglo-Saxons, mostly Protestant in the South. But when Louisiana Purchase came in, it messed up everything. And that's when the whole colorism, texturism, one drop rule, and all that other crap came in, okay? So Latin America, and yes, Louisiana was part of Latin America, one period of time was part of Spanish, was different. Yes, you had colorism, but it wasn't extreme. And for example, when Dominicans say they're not black, they're not saying they're not African descent. Okay, what they're saying, they don't want United States interpretation of blackness. And as a person from the United States, I partially agree with it. Okay, I partially agree with it. Let me explain why. And people act and say, LBA gonna get mad. I don't care. Because I have Anglo-Saxon and black Anglo-Saxon heritage too, besides Native American, I'm African American, French, Spanish, Creole, English, Irish, Scottish, Native American. The Anglo states, the South, stripped every African out of our African ancestors, besides the race mixing and the grapes. Okay, and this, so when African American people say we're not African, they mainly talk about culture, okay? And we're not pure African. We are part African, but we're not fully African. We have European and Native. But in the Dominican Republic, there was a lot of race mixing. And the Spaniards included those, they could be semi-social color before the skin bleaching, okay? Even though they're black or look black, if they have race mixing in their family tree, they're included. So when Dominicans come in this country or some other Hispanic person that look indigenous or African, they gonna say I'm not Indian or African. Well, they talking about United States terminology of what black is. And sadly, some of our people of African descent buy into bad stereotypes to define how black they are instead of developing their own personality. And if you want to get blacker, learn about African culture, because I don't want a white racist man's interpretation what black is. I have to argue with that with a lot of quote-unquote black identified people, okay? Because I don't live that stereotype. This is a white supremacist mouthpiece trying to exploit us in black negativity and white supremacy, okay? And you call it like it is. So I'm not saying that Latino America do not have their own flaws about blackness or Native American heritage. However, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant racist mouthpiece, sadly, in an African community, have interpreted it. And I'm going to say this since we're talking about Nolan Wells in the South. I am not a fan of the Nation of Islam. And since I have a fifth grandfather that was Anglo-Saxon and Irish, no, Scottish, Anglo-Saxon, Scottish, and French. I found later on that my one of my fifth grandpas, who was a massa, came from New Jersey to the South to be a slave owner. Um, I'm related to Johnson, President Johnson, and Nixon. They were affiliated with the Klan. Cause no, Johnson was a Klansman, but I don't know, Nixon was affiliated. Okay, Nation Islam was paid by H.L. Hunt, their friend. This is why the civil rights movement got messed up. This is why Michael X ended up dead. It's why John King ended up dead. Martin King ended up dead, and Robert Kennedy ended up dead, because they was from the integrated society, and Michelle Obama is not the first sister. Although I question that, because why would John Rivers get killed? Okay, if you're not what she say, you just confront her. But when you take someone's life, it looks like you knew the truth. You know what I'm saying? It's called like it is. Okay, so point is, I'm trying to say, but going back to what I'm saying, she's not the first sister to be first lady. It was Jacqueline Kennedy. A lot of people know she had African American roots, and she told the New York Geology Library to cover it up and say it's her Jewish roots. But while she was passing as white, she was helping us behind the scene. And when anyone comes on my channel, talk, well, she told me about Martin Luther King, right after Kennedy got killed, the stupid gospel, and I'm a gospel milk bitches, my two white cousins on my fifth grandfather's side, Johnson and Nixon. My ninth cousin is Johnson and President Johnson. Ninth cousin is Nixon, and tenth cousin is Johnson. Okay, through my toxic grandmother's side, and her mother, big mama, great grandmother of mine, who's sweet, like her daughter, my grandmother. That's my big mama's, my great grandmother. What we call big mama, great grandmother. Sweet God rest her soul. Through her light skinned daddy's roots. Okay, on her father's side. The family tree. And so my point I'm trying to say is that that's what messed up the civil rights movement. What the burning house, if you know the backup story, and the reason why they were doing that was using the Nation Islam to tell Africans and people to hate white people. Same thing with Marcus Garvey back to Africa, okay? So I want you to get that. I'm not going all over the subject, but I want you to get the idea. So let's get to the subject about why I said that Eric Alcantara is not white, or not pure white. Because the Spaniards, like I said before, had a history of race mixing, especially with the Moorish Muslim, conquering them, okay? And by them having a history of race mixing, Spaniards they had like a Rolling Stone, okay? Papa Rose a Rolling Stone. When they lay their hat, you doggone right. When they came to Americas, they was mixed, even though they was doing some raping. When they came to the African continent, some of them intermixed with the Equatorial Guineans and the Moroccans. They went to the Philippines. They also went to the East Indies. The West Indies is the Caribbean. The East Indies is not too far from Singapore and all that, okay, and Guam and all that, okay. They mixed there. They mixed in Guam. The Philippines. Spaniards have a history of race mixing. So when you hear someone with a Spanish last name, they're going to ask, are you mestizo, mulatto, cantizo, all those different names. And today I say Afro mestizo because the Spaniard and African. They even have a mestizo categorization in the Philippines, even though they're not indigenous. I was reading about Philippine history when I was in middle school. Like, what, they have another category for mestizo down there, like Malay and Chinese mixed and Spaniard. Like, God dog, because the Spaniards were so race mixed. So that's why we asked that question: if Eric Alcantara is fully white, and most likely he's not. Whoever is Latino, Hispanic, have other races that's not European in them. Because what Spaniard, and you don't hear this all the time, what Spaniard comes all the way from Spain to live in the South? This is not colonization terms. Yes, we have descendants of Spain because Mississippi was also conquered by the Spaniards. A lot of folks don't know that before the Anglo-Saxons took over. Mississippi also, Alabama was, and Louisiana and Florida. And the Carolinas, okay? So, but it's Anglo-Saxon eras. And if you hear someone with last name Alcantara, you're gonna ask, how did you get that last name? Where your family from? I'm not here to promote the N word, but it's like that song from what's that man name? Um, what's that man name? What's the rapper name? Kendrick Lamar. Where you from? What's up, my end? That's you gonna ask that question when you hear a Spanish last name and somebody looks mostly European. Okay, you go like, huh? Okay, it's not Jones, it's not Johnson, it's not McDaniels, even it could be Scottish or either Irish. You know what I'm saying? It's not. It's like, hold on, your last name. Are you white? How do you got that name? And well, you gonna say, well, there are white Hispanics, but do the extreme race mixing of Spaniards mixing with Africans, indigenous people, and Asians, you're going to ask that question, huh? Because they know to race mix it and they accept they mix children. Okay, unlike the Anglo Saxons, the French and Spaniards and the Portuguese accept they mix kids. That's why you have people who look like fully African or fully indigenous saying that they're Spaniard because of a race mixing in their family tree. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that anti-blackness in the American Republic does not exist, but I know when they come to the United States, you have people darker than me saying they're not black. Me, I can people get offended. What they're saying, they don't want to deal with the racial binary, which I am against racial black and white because it gets on my nerves. Even if we talk about Eric Alcantara, the racial binary of that. No, when it comes to real white racist people, they're going like what happened in Trump administration. If Latinos were white, and I get tired of hearing this, I'm tired of organization. I mean, conversation. Excuse me. I'm speaking out of terms because I'm tired. I just woke up. I'm tired of having this conversation with people who choose to be ignorant. If most Latinos are white because they don't look black, and there are Afro Latinos, I'm talking about the ones who don't look black and do have African ancestry. And yes, Mexicans do too, besides Spanish. They may have the rest of the whole idea of Mejor Raza Blanquimita was about. But if they were, then Trump would not be deporting people who look illegal in any terms. Do you get my point? And you're coming on my conversation talking about he could be white. I don't care about him. Okay, the reason why Latinos usually classify as white and a lot of real white people who are racist do not like that. Because in 1940s, when LULAC, mostly Mexican American, now LULAC has different chapters. They have one in Puerto Rico, they have different places. You know, there's other Latinos who are not Mexican who are in LULAC. When they first start here in Texas, a lot of those racist Latinos was involved in LULAC, okay? And they was trying to bridge the gap between Anglo-Saxon and them. They was trying to align themselves with white Anglo-Saxons, okay? And it's the same time when Jose Vasconcelos made a stupid essay called Ras Macasica, which is a very Nazi racist essay. That's why you have Mexico ignoring the black groups until 2015, right? And they start putting it on the census. Because Jose Vasconcelos, who's the Department of Education, Secretary of Education, excuse me, in Mexico, was racist. And also too, if you know a story about him, he came to Texas as a little boy. He was an immigrant. People say he was Criollo because in Criollo in Mexico is full Spaniard born in Mexico. I look at his picture and question, huh? I question that because if he was fully Spaniard, even though there are dark hair and olive skin tone, but let's be real, if you've been in Latin America and bred it with Spaniard and black, that's like a typical look. Okay, so white people, Anglo-Saxon, blonde hair, red hair, blue eyes, whatever, brown, light brown hair, didn't give a care about him being classified a white Spaniard in Mexico. Okay, they know that Mexicans are mixed. Okay, if the Spaniards were white, Latinos from Latin, this whole Trump administration would not be a conversation. Okay, it's funny that Biden tried to get Ukrainian immigrants here, and Trump trying to get so-called fully South Africa because they didn't have a one-drop rule. They had a color category down in Africa, South Africa, excuse me, and some of the white South Africans are not fully African. Yeah, they have some black blood in there. Funny meaning belong to Nazi and Klan type organizations, but some mulatto in Indian, East Indian person, Asian, Chinese person got any family besides an African. The hunting type, it's called a hunting, the hunting knots. What they call it? This is the official from one of the tribes. Okay, they was called meaning mixed with the Dutch. A lot of folks don't know their history in South Africa. Okay, you're gonna get free white, so-called white South Africans. I mean, you'll get so-called white South Africans and do a geology check on these white so-called white Africans or South Africans, okay? Because they didn't practice the one drop rule down here, and they did have a color categorization. And I guess if you was light in the past for white and it was colored down there in South Africa, you was able to marry a white person and keep it hush hush. Okay, yeah, okay. Yes, baby, I know about that secret. Okay. But the truth of the matter is, Mexico, they many real white people who are racist do not want Mexicans here and other Hispanics. So if they were white, why would they not have this issue about them closing the border? Why are they using criminals who have been so-called illegal immigrants? I say so-called because that word illegal can be used as inter. And let me explain why. Because in Nazi Germany, that's what they used the term for Jews. That's why I say undocumented. I don't say illegal, okay? And then she's talking about Whitney Houston's killer, who was mixed with black and Dutch from the Dutch-speaking country down in South America, excuse me, and also Netherlands. Bro Vance, I do call him illegal immigrant nigga, okay? He did kill Whitney Houston and dumbass Ray J. Yeah, I said what I said. It's sad, and I'm not saying Brandy was involved, but she gave that note to her brother. I mean, to his sister, excuse me. All right. Anyway, and happy belated birthday with his day and else if it's the good of those as well. Okay. Your birthday just passed the age of 12. Anyway, so you get my point. Why I do not uh, agree with your argument. And I get it because dude like fought hard to be classified as white. Then when it was got a wake up call, Latinos got like, you're not white. They put an application. The white people are looking at you like, we know you have indigenous and African blood. Stop trying to play. Stop trying to play it because you look like you're like a black person. Stop. And that's why the black and brown unity started coming in the 1960s and 70s when Latinos got away with call. I said what I said. Okay. At the Matanza gasoline bath, Operation WICK, Latinos got away with call that hey, you're getting discriminated against, and when they try to fight for discrimination, the people will say we got both white. And real white people race like no, they're not. We just tolerate them. Yeah, they tolerate. They tolerate in here in Texas. They tolerate Latinos until when African people leave the room, then they the niggas. Excuse me for a term. That's why they call them. And I'm paraphrasing. Wetbacks, beaner, and spicks because of their like another word of being called a nigger. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Because they're not fully Spaniard European. They have indigenous and African blood. Okay, it's very known. That's why we question: are they mixed? Do you get my point? That's why I say that Eric Alcantara is not fully white. Since the Spaniards have a extreme history, and I got Hispanic connection when I did my family tree on my mom's side, and I started checking the box Hispanic. I used to check black, white, native, not checking black, white, native, Hispanic on applications, or just put other or to race it more. And I don't like it when it says Hispanic, non-Hispanic to race it more. Like, huh? And it's funny. Have y'all seen the application when they say I just two races more non-Hispanic? What are you talking about? See, if Hispanic was not really a race, it's not, but it's used because majority of people of Hispanic origin are not fully European. And some not even European at all. You got people coming from Latin America. Like, for example, the Pidioco, she would be classified as Spanish, even though she's not pure, she's not mixed. She's fully African, but she was raised in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? And speaks Spanish. So, you have, you know what I'm saying? So, that right there, okay? So, do you understand that I get what you're saying? But if you in the United States with a Spanish last name, people are gonna question how you are white and have a Spanish last name. Even though that Spanish European language, but Spaniards have a history of extreme race mixing. Okay? They have a huge history of that. And that's why people say that someone like Eric Alcantara is not white. Because white is fully European, but since Spaniards have a history of mixing, and even they not tend not fully white if they have some Moorish or so-called Gypsy Romani in their blood, because Moors are usually the Berber as Arab African mixture, sub-Saharan African mixture. Should I say the word Moreno comes from due to more? Like, do you understand why I say that that man is not a full young man is not a full white boy? Okay. And yes, I understand Louisiana is right next to Spain. You got a minority, here we go, of white people who fully Spaniard. And usually it's 9 10 some white passing Creole who claim they fully Spaniard. I'm calling like it is. I have met people from Louisiana and they have dark hair, curly hair. They can probably pass for the typical Hispanic look, Hispanic come all colors. And I remember I was in confession before the cathedral was rebuilt. We had the cathedral. It was the OEBF from Houston, and I waited in confession like 2001, 10. So I waited in confession. I asked her where she from. She said Louisiana. I said, oh, okay. So you Creole, okay? I'm Cajun. She said it like that, and I'm looking at her. Okay, your hair is very dark. I thought you was Mexican at first, or the Hispanic group. You curly hair. I'm not here saying this. I'm not debating who she is in front of her. I'm looking at her face like, sister, don't try to pass. And I'm not saying you're not mixed with Cajun, but we can tell something other than white in your family tree. Okay, come on. Yeah. So I know that. Yeah. So they leave Texas. Oh, I'm Cajun. I'm not Creole. I'm full white. Okay? If anyone is Creole is saying, no, I'm talking about, you'll meet them same white passing folks down in Louisiana. They claim to be fully Spaniard and French. But they when they out there hanging around with their family, oh, what's up? They speak in the slang. They still took a black. But when they leave the room and they're white, huh? What you say? No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fully Spaniard. My family mixed with. And you start asking the inbreed each other. You know what I'm saying? Or did the ancestors to ask that question, right? No, I'm French Creole. I'm French Cajun. And I'm not saying it's no Cajun people there, but that's why, okay? And that's why I said on my channel, on my video, excuse me, that Eric Alcantara is not fully white, okay? He's not. He's mixed, okay? So please stop. It's the reason why I had to go like that because y'all coming here trying to defend Blanquimito Mejela Raza, and I'm not with that. And just like y'all harp on the one drop rule on us accuracy people, it's funny when it comes to Latinos, you don't harp on the one drop rule except for Dominicans. Other Latinos, including Mexicans, got black blood in me. So when you say, I never said Mexicans were fully black, I said they're part. And the reason why I harp on it because I meet, since I was a kid, meet racist Mexicans, want to be anti-black, and kiss up to my white Anglo-Saxon cousins who called them, excuse me for language, who called them spicks and wetbacks and beaners behind their back until they get into arguments when all their words come out. But you're not going to sit here and hold them accountable for the anti-blackness and let them know, excuse me for, and I'm going to be nasty, for a black dick and pussy in colonial Mexico when they had a caste system, fucking some Spaniard indigenous, they wouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? All Mexicans are like that, but the ones who are anti-black, it pisses me off. And you got some dumb accuracy and people talking about, and I'm talking about so-called FBA, who want to harp on someone like me telling the truth, but you don't tell them the truth. You don't go, and I'm going to use the word chimp out, you don't act with them. You let them go and pretend to be fully Spaniard native and put white in their application when they actually try racially African mestizos. And I do get into argument about my multiracial because I never get, that's why I mean videos about this and podcasts about this. You have some Hispanic people who don't look black, who not Mexican, here in Texas. They want to sit here and put one drop rule on us African people, and not all of us are collectively that I'm not with the one drop rule. I'm for identified with multiracial marriage. And when I say one drop rule, I'm not talking about because someone said that I'm for one drop rule, I'm talking about ancestry. Well, excuse me, if the dick and pussy of your ancestors made your family, your ass wouldn't be here. One drop rule says if you have any drop of black in you, you're fully black regardless of your ancestry, your look, your skin. Thank you. And the Latinos did escape that when they asked the government to put them as white. However, when I meet a Latino person, particularly those who are Mexican, knowing the history of Mexico having African ancestry besides the Spaniard, I will throw that right back in their face. Excuse me, before you start putting me as fully black because I look more black compared to you. You don't know like Akon, my skin tone is not that dark, not dark skin on camera, something like that. Put your bitch ass black on application because you're not fully Spanish indigenous. You also have African blood too. That's the hypocrisy I throw right back in the fucking face. So do you get my point? And it makes me upset because if you're gonna put me as because that one tribe was not about being proud of being black, it was about having black blood and being oppressed of it and being exploited of it, doing slavery and Jim Crow. So here these folks, and I'm talking about our Mexicans, I'm the ones who escaped but still went through atrocities, Matanza, gasoline baths, and all the other stuff in the Operation WICK, want to come here and pretend that they don't have no African blood in them and be anti-black, but it wasn't for black dick and pussy in Colombia, Mexico, Nueva España, okay, messing with Spain and dishes, their asses would not exist. You get my point? And it's hypocrisy. I call it hypocrisy, okay? Because regardless of what you look like, your ancestors is the reason why you're here. I don't care if it was a long time ago. A long time ago, the dick and pussy, I'm being nasty up in here, contribute your fucking family to be here. So when you sit here and negate that, who is the real South hater? The person that does it is you, not you per se. I'm talking about people who did that mess. You're saying that ancestor, whether they did bad or not, don't exist. They contribute your mama and your daddy to be here, your grandma, grandpa, and so on. But you want to come at me who include all my heritage. I don't negate nothing. If I find I got something else in my family tree, I'm going to add it to my identity as well because it contributes my ass to be here. See, I love who I am. A lot of y'all don't love who you are. You just want to deny who you are and please people in society who don't give a damn about your bitch ass. Okay? I'm talking about people in general. Not just the person who made the comment, but go back to the person who made the comment. That's why I said what I said about Eric Alcantara, and I wanted to say that Eric Alcantara need to watch his back in Mississippi with ICE. Whatever you did to Nolan Wells, maybe a fucking karma right back your bitch ass. We worked with George Zimmer did to trade for us. So right now, George Zimmer is not home and still living. But I'm not making threats. I'm saying what I'm saying. With that last name, Alcantara, your last name, Alcantara, and it indicate you're not Hispanic with some Spanish digits and African blood. And the Trump administration, many people are racist in it, do not want your part Spanish and nigga behind here. And I said what I said. That's why they call you, excuse me for language, I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not saying this from my own heart. They call you a wetback and spick and beaner and board jump and all that because your genealogy has indigenous and African blood besides European. What they're afraid of is you mixing with their white, especially white women, okay, but white men too, and their gene pool, their bloodline is going to be tainted with that African indigenous bloodline. No matter how many generations, it can the dick and pussy of them Africans and indigenous people with all spin consider that person to be here. You're fully European, Anglo-Saxon. You over here mixing with no. See, Blanquimento, because that's the whole reason why some race Latino believe Blanquimento and La Raza is to whiten the population up. Okay, but unfortunately, in Anglo-Saxon America, we go by ancestry, we become a race. you are still a descendant of that other person that you look like. Okay? Regardless how you feel about it, it is what it is. Okay? So does it make sense why I say that Alcantara is not fully white? And as a person that educated about this, I'm not gonna back down what I say. That dude is mixed with Spanish and African. And if he did something to Nolan Wells on that demonic Horn Island, let me say this. He gonna get her karma in his Trump administration. Okay? And no one's not gonna protest. They'll protest for Lorenzo Sagado Blaho, but they're gonna support his bitch ass. Talking about Eric Alcantara, because he has connection with Nolan Wells. Okay, okay. I'm being real with you. Okay, and I'm not with the racial burning bullshit that the Anglo Saxons created. Okay, I'm not. That's why I partially agree with some of the Dominicans. And I'm not saying I negate the black side of the family tree, but interpretation of white Anglo-Saxon prior to Anglo-Saxon racist bullshit, I don't agree with. And that's why I have to argue with dumb people individuals in our African American community who've been brainwashed, who don't think outside the box, who do not educate themselves. They go along with ignorance and stand 10 toes down in it, but I go along with intelligence. You know, I'm not the perfect one. I go along with truth, whether you like it or not. Okay? You get all emotional and have emotional damage to you, to people who don't like what I say. I'm not here to please you. Why other people don't like me on YouTube? Because I'm not the favorite. You want to hear what they want to hear and not hear the truth. Truth hurts, right? When you believe in lies, right? And the devil's for lies. That's kind of like it is, baby. Real talk. Okay? Alcantara gonna get that nigga wake up. Okay? With that last name, he should change. He should do the Mariah Carey grandfather last name change. Okay? Because you know Mariah Carey, Hispanic, Latino grandfather, her dad's side from Venezuela, changed his name to Roberto Nunez Robert Carey before he married her African descendant grandmother from the upper south, talking about Hattie Cole, which is her Afro Carey, aka Nunez parents. Okay, her dad. Okay, her mom was white. Anglo-Saxon. No, she's Irish. Was Irish American white. So do you get my point? I want y'all to understand that. Okay. You know, y'all sitting here talking about that. Somebody they classify us fully black for oppression. Now we can classify ourselves how we want to, but do white supremacists in Trump administration and ICE care about that? No. They know their bloodline has been tainted. Tainted. That's why the Italians were treated like shit. They was called wops without papers. You know why? Because people know Hannibal dominated Italy, especially Sicilians by Sicilians are darker. Okay? Because that race mixed with that black. Sophia Loren looked like she could pass for a light skinned sister. So I wish y'all stop with the Anglo-Saxon bump, and I'm mixed with Anglo-Saxon, like I said, Anglo-Saxon bullshit. Okay, in America, this fucked everyone's life up. Okay? And I have Anglo-Saxon blood. I'm African American, French, Creole, English, Irish, Scottish, and American. Okay? All right? Y'all get my point? I'm not with that one drop rule. Oh, let's come together. See, I'm glad. Now, I'm not defending the FBA movement, but they learn their ass thinking anybody this divides black is always safe. Okay? The same thing goes with our own community. Like what happened to that sister down there in Mississippi. We thought people think it was a white man they lynched her. No, so was a brother, kind of light skinned with dreads. That nigga, not no brother to me, lynched that sister. Okay, in Mississippi, while we think about the Moors, do you get my point? All this, and that's one thing the white racist Anglo-Saxon fucking mindset has fucked our lives up. And that's one thing I will tell you when it comes to my ancestry, that I'm not like ashamed. I acknowledge I'm part white down the family tree. Anglo-Saxon besides French and Spanish, Irish, all that. However, when it gets to the after colonization, that's what I guess changed up. Now, I mean, I'm mixed. I'm very proud of mixed. I'm saying of the individuals, okay? Because the immigrants that came here, that were European, didn't always be conquerors. You know what I'm saying? Right? You know, I want everyone to say that, okay? You know, but soon their children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren, the next couple of centuries, next couple centuries later on, that's when they start to be racist and being part people and African people. Okay, my ancestors were African indigenous. Okay, so you get my point. Why I get it because we have to have these debates and arguments when you tell the truth and somebody want to challenge your ass. And you're not even trying to have a challenge situation.